So today's video, this Palestinian American lady is presently getting dragged on TikTok for a video she made talking about how the black people in the group she traveled with to Palestine were problematic because they had shared that they experienced racism in Palestine. A little bit of context that you would not find in this clip. In her comment section, she had said in response to one brother's comment saying that they had gone to Palestine for a religious trip. And apparently, the black people she had gone on this religious pilgrimage with had experienced racism and they made it known to her. And she got offended by the fact that they were talking about their experiences because, according to her, they were playing victim Olympics. Because how dare they talk about their experiences when Palestinian people are getting oppressed, subjugated, and kicked out of their lands? It seems it's 2025 and two things cannot be spoken of, two issues cannot be addressed at the same time. But enough of me talking. Let me roll the clip so you guys can hear for yourself.
I don't know what I was expecting from my trip to Palestine, but I certainly did not expect to walk away with racial tensions between myself and the black people in our group. And that's really disappointing for me to admit because I was so excited to go on this trip with black Americans because I was always under the impression that black people will be our greatest allies because they understand more than anybody what it's like to live under occupation, what it's like to be oppressed and racially profiled. But during the trip, it felt like some people were too busy playing oppression Olympics to fully grasp the experiences of Palestinians living in Palestine. Some people came on the trip with a very limited understanding of the Palestinian people and the Palestinian cause, which is problematic in and of itself. But the most problematic thing was the fact that some people were applying a Western lens of racial dynamics to a place where it does not apply. I am not going to sit here and deny that anti-blackness exists in every single part of the world. But the issue of race is much different in Palestine than in most other places in the world. In Palestine, Palestinians of all colors are undoubtedly the most oppressed people. In Palestine, a non-Palestinian black person is more privileged than a Palestinian of any color. And an American, black or white, is one of the most privileged people in Palestine, right beneath Israelis. Some people in the group were too busy victimizing themselves and taking out their anger on all the wrong people to sit with the reality that in modern day, there are some people that are more oppressed than them.
How ironic this statement she just made, and damn right, hypocritical, even I would say she's being right now. Because earlier she spoke about how the black people who were talking about the racism they experienced were playing oppression Olympics. I mean, yes, I am for the idea of let's not be putting on a scale trying to measure who's more oppressed over the other. But if we want to call a spade, did she not just do that? Did she not just do the exact same thing she accused the black people she went on a trip with of doing? The oppression Olympic thing? Or is it just me? Did I interpret that wrong perhaps? You guys, please let me know down below in the comment section. You know I'm always open to getting corrected and educated, right? So let me know down below in the comment section if I interpreted that wrong. And takes like these would always rub me off the wrong way because it really doesn't matter who's more oppressed than the other. The problem here is people are getting oppressed. Regardless of the degree they are getting oppressed in, the problem is oppression. We should be focusing on getting rid of that and not talking about who's more oppressed than the other.
One person in particular was incredibly problematic, especially considering she was one of the group leads who was hosting private conversations exclusively for the 7 black people in the group, which under almost any other circumstances I would encourage. I encourage black people to create safe spaces for themselves to discuss racial issues among themselves. But the issue is that the only comments I heard come out of this person's mouth about Palestine and Palestinians were negative, were about how we are. We're about how slavery persisted until the 20th century in Palestine, which is such an uneducated take, by the way. It was not exclusive to Black people, and it was not done mostly by Palestinians.
I genuinely don't get this last point she just made, because it really doesn't matter who exactly slavery was done to and whether or not it was exclusive to a particular group of people. It's wrong, right? So like that point, like what was the point? Like I'm so lost. I'm so lost. What was the point of her mentioning that? The point is it did happen and it's history, and people can talk about what happened, right? People can talk about history, especially seeing how they were in the place where these historical unfortunate events happened. All the more reason why high chance the conversation could have come up, right? So I don't exactly get what the problem is here. I mean, to be fair, I get correcting people when they are wrong about the details of certain historical events, so they don't keep getting their facts wrong and potentially miseducating other people. That I get, right? But trying to tone police people, hell, even tell them when and how they should feel about certain things, especially when it comes to their personal experience, that part I personally don't get. Because here she is angry that this group leader only had negative things to say. In her mind, she should have positive things to say as well. But what if she only has negative things to say because she's had only negative experience thus far? Like, and this is why it's sacrosanct for conversations like this, or every conversation for that matter, to always have like 2 points of views, 2 perspectives on things, because it's not always easy to really understand what went down and get to the bottom of whatever if you only have one perspective to work with.
So I believe these conversations being hosted by a person who came to Palestine with biases against Palestinians were so dangerous to Palestinians and ultimately to Black Palestinian solidarity.
And this is what I'm saying. They may not have gone with a bias, but that's how perspective, right? And we will never really know what their perspectives are. They legit just could have been talking from their experience on ground there, right? But to her, oh, they must have had a bias before coming here. Like, and this is the problem that comes with having a one-sided story.
The most ironic part about all of this is the fact that we sat and had dinner with Afro-Palestinians in Palestine. We sat and broke bread with the family who runs the Afro-Pali Center in Jerusalem. And they are Black. They are visibly Black, and yet they are highly respected in the Palestinian community for the work that they do for Palestinians. I even talked to the chef at our hotel in the last couple of days, who was a political prisoner. He had just gotten out of prison 2 months before we arrived in Palestine. And he told us that he sat side by side with an Afro-Palestinian, son of the couple who runs the Afro-Pali Center. He sat with him in prison, and he was shocked when I asked him about racism in Palestine, because he was like, those are my brothers. I don't care what color they are. During this trip, I sat with Palestinians and I told them, talk to me bluntly. I'm a Palestinian. I'm not going to judge our community. Talk to me about racism in Palestine. And every single one of them was like, what is there to say? Like, racism exists in every community, yes. But in Palestine, it's actually few and far between.
This is like if they were to ask a white person in America or South Africa if there's racism. What do you expect that they would say? How many times have we seen them palm-colored folks talk about how, oh, you know, we live in an equal world now, and how there's no more racism, but the everyday reality is different. And the Black people who have to live in that reality will tell you that racism is very much alive, kicking hard and thriving. Life is all about experience. If you go and ask the people who don't have that same experience, their tale would be very different, because they are not living that life. They are not walking in those shoes. So they really would not know. They are not the best person to ask. I thought she was even going to say something about, oh, I asked the Black people, the Afro-Palestinians, what their experiences are like there, right? So they can tell it. But no, she's asking the, non-Black Palestinians, at least from what she said in this clip, right? She did not say she asked any Afro-Palestinian. It's the non-Afro-Palestinians she asked. So, like, what was she expecting that they would say exactly? And saying, oh, we sat and ate and broke bread with these people, like, is giving when white people say, I have a Black neighbor, or my landlord's boyfriend's sister's cousin's cat is black, or I have a black friend at work, or I have a black coworker. Like, what are you talking about? And don't get me wrong, this is not me saying that the non-black Palestinians she asked were lying, or that there is no possibility that they just could have been telling the truth, and that life in Palestine for Afro Palestinians is as she's making it seem, or rather as she is saying that they made it seem to her, right? That they don't have to deal with that much racism over there. I've never been to Palestine. I don't know 100% what life is like there for any Palestinians. So I can't speak on that and say they're lying or they're telling the truth, right? All I can do is work with the information that she gave us in this clip. And I won't lie, I find it a bit weird that she decided to go speak with non-Afro-Palestinians to learn about the Afro-Palestinian experience and what life is like for them, instead of speaking directly to the Afro-Palestinians so they can tell you from their own mouth what life is like for them as Afro-Palestinians in Palestine. I mean, come on, you said you broke bread with these people. You said you were in proximity with them. Why did you not ask them directly? Right? Why did you skip over them and go ask every other person but the people? Go talk directly to every other person but the people you actually want to learn what life is like for them. Like, it's just a bit sus for me, if you get what I mean. And this right here makes me believe that she really does not care about the Afro-Palestinian perspective, because if she did care about them like she's making it seem like she does, if she really cares about their experiences and really wants to know what life is like for them, for real, she would have spoken to them directly, which I think this mentality here plays into why she reacted to the Black American people who shared their perspective and experience what it was like for them in Palestine, why she's so angry with them and the things they had to say, because she doesn't want to hear about like the true Black experience, right? She wants to hear what she wants to hear, and when she doesn't hear what she wants to hear, then there is a problem.
Because the issue of race is so much more complicated in a place like Palestine. And I have been involved in Black activism for many years. And I know that when I am in Black spaces, it is not my place to call out issues within the Black community, especially when those people are being slaughtered. When I am in Black spaces, I am there to observe, to learn, to be an ally, not to call out Black people.
That's definitely a false equivalence right there, because it's very different. The two things she's talking about. She cannot call out Black people. For what exactly? What do you want to call Black people out for? What are they doing to you? So of course, because Black people are not doing anything to you, all you would have to do when in Black spaces is observe and learn. But the reverse is the case for Black people though. The Black people who are in the same space with Palestinian people, non-Black Palestinian people, like the Afro-Palestinians, or Black people who maybe travel down there and find themselves in, that space, they just cannot observe, right? They just cannot be in the sidelines watching when things are happening to them. They have to speak up. So it's not the same thing at all. Like it's really not. So I really don't get what she's talking about. What is she saying? She wants Black people to experience things at their hands and not talk about it and not call them out for it, because she's not calling Black people out for stuff she has nothing to call Black people out for. Like, it is the equivalence is killing me.
By the way, these same people who sat there and talked all this shit about how racist Palestinians are did not hesitate to pose in front of a ginormous George Floyd mural painted by a Palestinian artist. They posed with that artist in front of the mural. And I bet they wouldn't dare look that artist in the face and say that he's racist.
Oh my goodness. Like, I mentally cannot deal. Who said the artist is a racist? Everybody knows that not everybody, every non-Black person or every whatever race you are person is going to be a racist towards you. Of course, there are people out there who are not going to be a racist. What is she talking about right now? She is trying to make it seem right now in this moment to me like there is absolutely no racism, but she earlier told us that the people she spoke with told that there is racism. like to a degree, right?
During this trip, I sat with Palestinians and I told them, talk to me bluntly. I'm a Palestinian. I'm not going to judge our community. Talk to me about racism in Palestine. And every single one of them was like, what is there to say? Like, racism exists in every community, yes. But in Palestine, it's actually few and far between.
Does few and far between means zero to her? Does she think that just because it's a few people being raped to deceased, then it's not a problem anymore? Have she heard of the saying, one bad apple spoils the bunch? I mean, let's go with the perspective of the non-Afro-Palestinians, right? And the few and far between talk, right? Even though it's few and far between, those people still exist and it's a problem. They are a problem and should be spoken about. And just because someone spoke about these issues in this country doesn't mean that now they cannot take a picture in front of a monument that was made by a citizen from that same country, especially seeing as this monument in question is of significance to them as Black Americans and all Black people globally. So of course they would want to take a picture. The way she's trying to make it seem like because these people decide to take a picture in front of the George Floyd monument, that somehow means that there is no racism in the country. Or Abi, what point was she trying to make? Please, can somebody help me understand? Because I genuinely cannot see the correlation and why mentioning that they took a picture in front of the George Floyd monument is even relevant, right? Except for she's trying to say or use the monument to say, oh, we have this monument here. That means that everything that they were saying is invalid. Like, that's not how it works. America, for crying out loud, at one point in time had a Black president. They were still raped to deceased, right? So talking about the George Floyd monument, and later on in the video, she would mention Nelson Mandela's monument that they have over there, and trying to use that to say, oh, this exists here. Palestinians built this or created this. That means that, like, no, that's not how it works.
By the way, go support that artist. He's Banksy.2 on Instagram. He's an incredible person, incredible artist who I'm still in communication with. He is struggling right now. His daughter is in the hospital, so please reach out and try to help in any way that you can. But I refused to pose in that picture with the rest of the group because literally an hour before that, they were making fun of Palestinians. We passed a mural that was supposed to be, I believe, of Nelson Mandela, but it wasn't the greatest art. And so it kind of looked like George Floyd, and they couldn't tell who it was. And they literally said, I'm so sick of these people. And yet they won't hesitate to pose in front of a George Floyd mural for a social media photo op. Even when we were about to walk into a masjid, there were beggars outside the masjid who asked some people for money. And she made a comment about how, oh, notice how they're not asking the Black people for money because they think all Black people are poor. And I said, you don't know that. Those same people didn't ask me, a Palestinian American, for money. They're not assuming I'm poor. In fact, when they know you're American, you're immediately up here to them. They immediately assume you have money and that you're privileged in ways that they'll never experience. The reason that they didn't ask some people for money had nothing to do with the fact that those people are Black. They simply just approached a few people out of the entire group asking for money. I could ramble about this for hours because it was one of the most frustrating things of my life to watch people come from America to a place like Palestine and act like they're more oppressed than people literally living under occupation. And it's so ironic because the entire time I'm trying to find parallels between the lives of Palestinians, between the racial profiling that I experienced as a Palestinian and the experiences of Black people in America. I thought that this would be an opportunity for us to come together and understand each other better, not to create more division. But this is why some people are so dangerous to the movement, not only to the pro-Palestinian movement, but also to Black activism. Because if I was somebody else, if I haven't already done so much work for the Black community, if I didn't already have a deep understanding of racial dynamics, this entire experience might have pushed me away from the Black community. But I know that these rotten tomatoes in the community do not represent the Black community as a whole. One of the most ironic parts about all of this is that before making this video, I was sitting in a cafe in Amman, journaling my thoughts about this topic, and I got interrupted by a waiter at the restaurant who asked me where I'm from, and we started chatting, and it turns out he is Jamaican and Palestinian. But ultimately, I think if you have internal biases against Palestinians, you should not be going to Palestine. And if you don't want to acknowledge the experiences of Palestinians in their entirety, then to be honest, we don't need you as an ally. Seeing what Palestinians are going through only makes you think, yeah, no, we have it worse. When you're an American, you are not a true ally. And I will be talking more about the issue of people taking trips to Palestine with a limited understanding of Palestinians and Palestinian history, because there were so many other issues with some of the people who went on this trip for all the wrong reasons.
I don't even know what to say right now that the clip has come to an end, because the entire video, it just gets as it be, right? Like, there's just something about it that is not adding up. But here's a few videos from other Black creators on TikTok, and here's what they had to say.
I watched that Heba Talk Ladies video 3 times because I really wanted to understand where she was coming from. And in her video, she made it seem as if she went on some humanitarian aid trip to Palestine. And during this trip, there were Black people in there comparing their struggles to the struggles of the Palestinian people. And in reality, she said that she was on a religious pilgrimage. And during that pilgrimage, Black people experienced anti-Blackness. And instead of taking it out on the Palestinians, the Black people were having conversations within themselves about what they experienced. And she eavesdropped, and then from there she built animosity towards them. She goes on to add these tad bits about how they were looking at murals, and there was this one mural of Nelson Mandela that wasn't painted too well, and under their breath they were making comments about how they can't stand the Palestinian people, and that they were saying Palestinians weren't asking them for money because Palestinians assume that Black people are broke. And the more her video just like devolves into this like anti-Black think piece, I really am inclined to believe that her whole entire video is just made up. Until other people can come out and corroborate her trip, post pictures, and like give more insight to what happened, I'm not inclined to believe anything that she's saying. Because the way she also goes on into the video to say that she encourages Black people to have conversations, and first of all, thank you, I guess. Thank you for allowing us to have conversations on anti-Blackness. I guess it's only when you feel like it, because apparently eavesdropping on that conversation ruffled your feathers. And then to talk about how you've always been a great ally to Black people, and how if you weren't so intertwined with the Black community and their activism, that would have turned you off to Black people. It's so odd. It's just the crazy thing is that anti-Blackness exists everywhere, yet instead of addressing the fact that anti-Blackness exists and is very harmful and it hurts the feelings of the people that you want allyship from, you get mad at them for expressing how they feel about anti-Blackness. And it's not like you're just disappointed. You were journaling about it. You had to talk to other Palestinians about it. And then you couldn't even do that to the point where you had to get on here and say, I have to talk about this because it's boiling my blood. Like your biases literally stare y'all in the face, but you're so busy on gaslighting Black people on racism and anti-Blackness that you can't even check your own self. You should be more upset with the fact that these Black people came over to your country to embrace and experience the Palestinians, to create a solid foundation of allyship and solidarity. And while doing so, they were met with anti-Blackness. That should rile you up. That should make it hard for you to write in your journal to the point where you have to get on here and speak about it. Not the fact that people are talking about what they experienced. That's fucked up. You're fucked up for that.
Why is it that a Black person can't vocalize the racism or anti-Blackness they've experienced at the hands of Arabs or Arab Americans without the onus being put back on the Black person to fix it? There's always a Heba out there screaming, it's not the oppression of Olympics, stop putting Western standards on non-Western people. This is basically exactly what happened with Maya and Tory. Someone told Tory, get that Palestinian flag out of your bio if you intend on voting for Kamala Harris. And Tory said, bet. Flag gone. What did Maya do? Did she take the time to talk to her own community about how the rhetoric that was launched at Tory did nothing but harm the Palestinian movement? No. She got on the internet and said, well, if that was enough to take the flag out of her bio, she never really supported Palestine anyways. Okay. You expect Black people to accept disrespect. Look inward, all right? Deal with the poison within before you request solidarity from anyone. When that poison seeps out inevitably and we get a whiff of that nasty Don't expect us to put gas masks on and stick around for the party. Get the f out of here.
Well, guys, what are your thoughts? Let me know down below in the comment section. Let's continue this conversation there. Thank you very much for watching. But before you click off, there's one more clip at the end of this video that you would want to see as well. So do wait to check that out. I'll be catching you guys in the next one.
Black people truly have no allies in this world. I'm an altruistic person at my core, and I truly believe that there can always be a change and a room to educate people. Why I make the kind of videos that I make. But I just saw this girl go on a 6-minute rant about how a group of Black Americans went to Palestine with her, where they shared with her and the group that they were experiencing racism from the Palestinians, to which she insinuated they should have accepted the behavior, they should have shut up about the behavior instead of playing up oppression Olympics.
Because I was so excited to go on this trip with Black Americans. But during the trip, it felt like some people were too busy playing oppression Olympics. Some people in the group were too busy victimizing themselves, that the only comments I heard come out of this person's mouth about Palestine and Palestinians were negative, were about how we are, were about how slavery persisted until the 20th century in Palestine, which is such an uneducated taker, and talked all this about how Palestinians are, did not hesitate to pose in front of a ginormous George Floyd mural. Because if I was somebody else, if I haven't already done so much work for the Black community, if I didn't already have a deep understanding of racial dynamics, this entire experience might have pushed me away from the Black community.
Yup.
My grandma used to always tell me, if the story doesn't make sense, then it's definitely a lie. So there's things missing in context in her whole story. But instead of actually listening to Black people, because Black people do not claim racism for no reason. Contrary to what you've all been socialized to believe, if a Black person says that someone is racist, they actually have experienced racism. The anti-Blackness that exists within the Arab community is loud. It's always been loud. This is the same issue we had when this conflict started, where people lack the ability to understand more than one thing can be true, and intersectionality is real. Black people can absolutely stand up for what they believe in and prioritize ourselves first as an oppressed group and still support others. Now, with the history of anti-Blackness within the Arab community, slavery within the Arab community with Black people, the way they treat Black people in the region and domestically in America, rightfully so, a Black person would have preconceived notions about how Arabs treat us. But when that's reinforced by the actual treatment of racism towards us, we're going to say it out loud. Black people are not going to conform and just accept. And you're asking people to just accept how they're treated, and they should have been quiet about how they're treated. Come on, let's be for real right now. Two things can be true, and the fact that people don't understand this concept blows my mind. Palestinians can absolutely be occupied, can absolutely live under oppression, and Black people can absolutely be one of the most hated groups of people in the world, no matter where we are. Even from oppressed people. Weaponizing a George Floyd mural that Black people saw in Palestine, regardless of the fact that if they said that they were experiencing racism or not, what are they going to do? They can't disappear. We're in Palestine. Black people experience racism from the time we wake up to the time we go to sleep, but we still have to live our lives. And you being a non-Black person who visibly can blend into white people, you will never understand that concept ever in your life. And you also can't speak on behalf of Afro-Palestinians because you're not them. Lastly, you said if you were anyone else, this would have wavered your support of Black people and Black issues. That means you're not an ally to begin with. If you don't have the ability to learn and or try to listen and or try to educate those people why what they were doing was an issue for you or maybe your community, then you don't deserve to be around Black people. You just don't. I'm sorry.